Hey all, Toves here, back playing some more Planet Zoo and back in the dome. So, episode 11, it seems to have gone past really quick, but we're getting pretty much to the end of this now, I think. Probably maybe 2 or 3 episodes left. This episode we're adding, it's another episode on Jaguars, let's just say. So, I'm really enjoying this end of the dome. The Jaguars are sort of the main attraction for the dome, so I wanted to spend a good amount of time on it and a good amount of kind of real estate inside the dome. So we are starting off here with a bit of rock work. A couple of episodes ago we added this bridge in, so we had this kind of waterway that goes into the backstage area for the caiman crocodiles, or for our kind of pretendy caiman crocodiles. So we've got a bit of rock work to do here. I've sort of deviated. This is the first time I've deviated significantly away from the way that I've been doing rock work. So I am using the proper rocks now. It sort of was a conscious decision really early on not to do that. I think I've mentioned this before, but I always feel like the actual rocks look a little bit too realistic for the setting that I'm using them in. So I've always wanted it to kind of look like it was almost more like it was rocks that were almost like stage rocks. So they're made out of fiberglass rather than actual solid rock. But for this, I sort of decided to deviate away from that and actually use proper rocks. So we're using the temperate rocks. I always feel like the tropical rocks, although kind of more appropriate for the biome, just don't really kind of work for me. I don't know why. I always feel like the temperate looks better. I know the tropical rocks are better at blending into the ground, but yeah, just for me it just looks, I just prefer this colour of the rock. So we're going to do various different jumps as usual, real-time section at the end, so you're going to see kind of little snippets of the way that I've built things, and that's the way I kind of always do these episodes. So yeah, we won't dwell on this bit for too much longer, but I wanted to give some height really. I wanted to give something that was a way of getting across this bridge, but also sort of a bit of a point of interest. We're in the opposite corner to the grotto, so the grotto is on the far side from where we are here, behind us, back to camera. So yeah, it sort of feels like it's a sort of similar thing. So we put all this rock down, we've put loads of mulch on top of it, and we're now using the wisteria. So this is a wisteria fill, and it's supposed to be obviously a climbing plant, but used like this, it actually works really well as a sort of coverage, ground coverage. It sort of feels like it's undergrowth. A lot of the things I think in foliage are all about layering up and stuff, so as long as you kind of add stuff with the plants you use, that you'll get the depth that kind of gives it some realism. And we've used this before. This is one of my favourite bushes. That seems a bit weird to say, but my favourite bushes in the game, the crowberry bush. And so you just sort of blend this into the rock work, push it into the rock, and it almost looks like it's like a mossy texture. It's got a bit more depth to it than the actual ivy. So we're nearly done with this now, and it comes out pretty well. As I said, there's usually a lot more to see in the speed build. So that's actually pretty much the finished result there. You can see the wisteria and stuff that I've added in, but we'll see that as we do the kind of walk around in the real time section. So I wanted to add some steps in. Not massively different to the steps that are there, but just to kind of keep it in line with the temple feel, just using these beam pieces to kind of blend it in. And I think I went back, coloured some of those just to give it a bit of contrast and difference. So now we are back on the other side of the bridge, and we're working our way back towards the original Jaguar habitat. So I don't think I'd done any of this in the previous episode, but I did mention that I was going to have more than one habitat. So the Jaguars, although it won't really massively feel like that to the guests, but this will actually be two separate habitats. It's something that Planet Zoo doesn't really cater for particularly well, but it is very often the case that you'd have multiple animals of the same species probably separated up in zoos, so that you get more than one pair, for example. And that's what we're doing. So we're doing a bit of backstage detailing here. You'll have seen the kind of added in some gates. So this is the wall of the habitat now, building a kind of temple. And I wanted to leave that little gap you can see there is the access for the Jaguar into its backstage area. And you can see one of the tunnels there. That tunnel on the right of us is the tunnel back for the other Jaguar habitat. So we'll see all this again when we go into the backstage tour. But yeah, just kind of blending this in using pretty much the same approach that I'd used before, and just kind of using these temple building pieces, which are really great and they're really good textures, and you can use them kind of flip round and stick them in the ground and build up and sort of things. I did a wooden climbing structure originally, and actually ended up taking it out because it just didn't look as good as this does. The simple kind of on-grid pieces, not quite so nice, not quite so good textures, but actually work pretty well for kind of covering reasonably sized large areas. So yeah, just kind of blending in around this tunnel here and using the null barrier to make sure that I'm keeping the animals out from where I don't want them to. We still are having a few issues. So if you are someone that's picking this up on the workshop, there are occasionally escapes from the Jaguars, which obviously matters more than the monkeys escaping does. And I'm trying to kind of figure it out, but I think I'm probably just going to wait and fix it at the end, because what they're tending to do is just kind of glitch through, which is really frustrating. They don't show as being able to escape on the traversable area hot map, or heat map, but they just somehow kind of glitch through the wall. And you watch them, you can see them just sometimes kind of just walk through. So I think I'll fix all that at the end and not worry about it as I'm going. So yeah, using the same approach I used before, so putting these glass pieces in, blending this glass paneling into the sort of ruined walls, so it feels like it's sort of semi-natural, but obviously the guests are kept protected and well away from the Jaguars. So we are coming to the end of the speed build section, guys. So we will be doing, as usual, a VIP tour, leaving very imminently. So beware of fleeing guests or loose wild animals, but do keep your hands and appendages away from any small creatures that appear. Hopefully we won't see any Jaguars. Anyway, so let's push on down this way. So this is new stuff down this way, and we start to see the new areas coming together. I think I'm probably, a lot of this needs to polish still, little bits and pieces. I need some more, I think just little touches, little decorations and stuff, little bits this is definitely one of my favourite spots in the zoo, I have to say. The view of them running across that, oh, there we go. Fleeing guests. A staff member as well, just zipped back through there. But then this lady's fine. These people panic stricken. We're going to ignore that as we go through and just, as I said, I'll fix that. I'll fix that at the end. I'll show you briefly what I'm talking about when I say it doesn't kind of make sense. But anyway, so here's our new kind of tunnel area. Adding more. See, I was always keen to make sure that there's plenty of kind of canopy coverage and stuff here. So let's push on up here through our little kind of new new tunnel, which I think turned out really well. I'm really happy with the way this turned out. So this is now, so the guests do sometimes stand here and they'll watch, that's right on cue, watch the crocs coming out of their feeding. And one of the advantages of doing what I've done here is as well, is that they used to, before I did this, they stood here and looked out that way, which I didn't really want them to do. But I don't mind them standing here because this is a very small amount of time they'll be able to see the animals anyway. And the crocs come in and out to feed down there. So this works pretty well. I will do a bit of a tour, show you what it looks like in the night as well. So this is all new stuff. I saw this in the speed build. So this is I'd say completed, but I always say completed, but things aren't really completed. We'll often go back and fiddle with them. Oh, right on cue, thank you. Taking a dump in the one and only bit that we can actually see you. So there's one of the overpasses. So we hadn't done this, I think we just penciled this in kind of roughly in the last episode. So let's see if we can get a better view of them through here. Yeah, this has got to continue in the idea of them being like almost kind of difficult to see, but not completely difficult to see. Sort of controlling the viewpoints basically has always been the idea of these habitats. So I really love the little kind of nooks and things that you can see through, and there's not big kind of is everybody just gonna it's just like a dirty protest going on right now. So they'll use these tunnels, they'll use all of these tunnels. Right, so I did just spot a jaguar there. Okay, so let's go check this out. Ignoring the fleeing guests again, and the fleeing keepers. Right, so there's one perfectly walking over, as he should be. It's actually nicer when there's no guests in there as well. So we'll take that as we'll take the opportunity. We'll take the opportunity for a bit of peace and quiet over here. But yeah, I think this is really coming together. So let's jump out of Teducam and we'll fly on over there. We'll go back into Teducam in a minute just to do the backstage bits as well. But I'll show you kind of the overall aesthetic. So yeah, the idea of this is, a lot of this dome has been, the idea is kind of repeating patterns of making people feel like they're immersed in it. So yeah, it was the idea of having these raised beds. So you always feel you're kind of down almost like you're down in the jungle, it's sort of in the undergrowth. I think this turned out pretty well. Blending together just some bits and pieces, put a few big trees in, some nice big vines going over, and let's just slow down a second, flying around at super speed. So if we take a look in the actual habitats, so they can climb up here. They don't tend to use this log very often, they actually quite often just climb up the tree and jump across, but I think that came out pretty well. So let's just have a quick look. Right, so he's just hanging out there. So let's move you back inside. Fair enough that the guests are not entirely enamoured with that idea, but this is what I'm talking about. Right, so if I click his heat map and go to his traversable area, there is nothing that shows that as being able to be escaped. And what is actually happening, we may even just do it now. But it doesn't sort of matter what I put down here, he just sort of glitches through. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on with that. It's obviously something I'm going to have to fix, but I tend to have the navigation rebuild itself quite frequently. It does that message at the beginning comes up. But when it works really well. See, this is a case where it's not working so well. Where this guy's gonna moonwalk over, and I think these are the sorts of things. Yeah, so he's now going to glitch through. Okay, so that may well have taught me something. I may well have just learned something from that. As I said, I'm pretty sure it's fixable because it hasn't been doing this the whole time. But yeah, so there's the top view. I'm really happy with how it's come out. As I say, I think it needs a little sort of another sort of 5 or 10% detailing, just some more, habitat information. I don't have any of my kind of nice interactive things going on over here yet, which I'd like to do more of. Right, so let's jump back down. We'll go back down to ground level. See if we can find a staff member to grab. You will do perfectly. And we'll go back in to the backstage area. So let's turn that off for a second. Alright, dude. So back through here. Seen all this before. This is all opened up now. And so this is the idea of what we're doing back here. Just slow down a second. So taking a left out of the crocodile area. Needs a sign there. Again, this probably needs about another sort of 10-15% detailing. And we have these kind of, what I was trying to create. First of all, I'll show you this kind of quickly. This cold storage. I think we'd had that in the last episode. It's this sort of cold storage unit, which works really well, which is a workshop item, which the blueprint will be in the collection. And then what we've got is these what are supposed to be like separation chambers, I guess. Would you call them cages? I think maybe is the not particularly nice way to say it. They do actually just walk through that because it's an open space. But I think is he gonna walk through? Yeah, he does just kind of walk through, but that's not a barrier at the moment. But that's the idea that they can, because you see this quite often. You see this in zoos. But again, the game doesn't lend itself particularly well to this, but being able to isolate animals. So, the reason why you put gates in is so that you can have the animal closed outside while the keepers can come in and clean in here. And that would be the same in this. If you wanted to keep them inside, but close them in somewhere that they were separate, you'd open that gate up, bring them in there, and then close the gates behind them. This is all looking rather disgusting back here. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this episode, guys. I did add a couple more, facility buildings in here, trade centre, etc. Just to give it a bit more detail. And let's zoom back round and out this exit. So I think the only thing left to do on the internal, I've got a few ideas for there's another one out there. Yeah, so we've definitely got an issue to solve, but I think it's fixable, easily fixable. It's not the tunnels because we've been using those a bunch. So let's just do a quick flyover and we'll change the time of day because it looks really nice at night. Spent a lot of time kind of working on the lighting and stuff, so let's turn that off for a second. So this is the first bit that I think looks really nice in the evening. Lots of nice guest lighting and path lighting and stuff. And we'll just try and go through reasonably slowly. So we've still got Jaguars running the show at the moment, but if you can forgive me that for the time being. Alright guys, so yeah, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully we'll have this back in the control of the guests and the keepers by the next episode. And I will catch you guys on the next one. My name is Toves, and as ever, take it easy.